Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another true crime video. So today we're doing a solved case from over in Queensland, and it is a solved case, but the results are somewhat up for debate, I guess. So I would love to hear your thoughts at the end of the video as to what you believe the outcome should have been. And just as a side note, with any huge cases like today's, I'm just going to highlight the most important parts of it because there is so many elements to this case. We could be here for hours, so I really encourage you to do your own research. And of course, if you think I left any important details out, let me know in the comments. This is a two-parter. This is part one. Part two will be up tomorrow. And sit down, grab a snack, and let's get into today's case. So today's case is relatively recent, taking place only 4 years ago in 2014. I'm going to say now, I'm going to pronounce some things wrong in this video, particularly the names. But let's start with Warriena Wright, and I hope it is pronounced Warriena. I will put it on screen. She was a 26-year-old living in New Zealand, so our neighbours here in Australia. She lived in a Lower Hutt with her sister, Merzabeth. Again, if I have pronounced that wrong, I do apologise. She was working at Kiwi Bank in the call centre part of it, near the Wellington waterfront. Warriena was described as very motherly and caring, particularly towards her sister and her mother. In fact, her and her sister were incredibly close, describing each other as each other's best friend. Her mother was actually a Filipino, and this was where Warriena was born, and she moved to New Zealand when she was 1 year old. Her mother, named Merzabeth Tagpuno, I'm going to put it on screen, was married to Warren Wright, and Warriena's name was actually derived from her father, Warren. She was a massive animal lover and a fan of the TV show Dragon Ball Z. In fact, she actually had little Dragon Ball Z figurines on her desk at work. And she was a lover, like myself, of Hello Kitty. She also loved taking photos and drawing in her spare time. And she was described as someone who loved a good eBay bargain, a last-minute road trip, and a good conspiracy theory. Was also a bit of a tech nerd. A friend of Warriena's stated, quote, "She was all about dignity, equality, fairness, and what's right." Warriena was also a very big fan of the dating app Tinder, which had only launched about 2 years previous in 2012. And Warriena at one point did actually have a long-term boyfriend in New Zealand, but unfortunately that relationship did not last. So after their breakup, she turned to Tinder to see if she could just, have a bit of fun and find a date and enjoy the single life. And she did actually meet someone, but it wasn't a serious relationship at all. It was just very casual, very laid back. And right before Warriena was actually due to go on holidays to Queensland, Australia, her and this Tinder guy had a fight, but really because it wasn't a serious relationship, it wasn't particularly a big deal. So as I said, Warriena was planning to go on a holiday, but it was actually for a friend's wedding. So she was going to attend the wedding and then stay on a bit for a holiday, and she was flying out on July the 29th. So specifically, she was going to the Gold Coast in Queensland. While on this trip, Warriena decided to look through her Tinder dating app to see if she could find anyone just for like a local date, having a bit of fun, because Tinder goes by your location so you can find people within your area. And a friend of Warriena's said possibly she was just looking for a date in Queensland to get back at the guy that she'd had a bit of a falling out with back in New Zealand on the Tinder app. So on August the 1st, she swipes right, so yes, or I like you or whatever, on a Gold Coast local. He was a tanned, fit, and what some may consider conventionally good-looking, local Gold Coast, born and bred boy, 28-year-old carpet layer, Gable Tostee. And Tostee swipes right on Warriena and they're a match, and he immediately messages her and says, "You look delicious, I want to do dirty things to you." So you could say he was very clear in his intentions and straight to the point. Warriena was immediately attracted to Gable Tostee, telling her friends that she thought he looked like Sam Winchester from the TV show Supernatural, which was one of her favourite TV shows. I don't really see the similarities between the two of them, but each their own. So the pair swapped numbers and arranged to meet up for a date. So before continuing, let's talk a little bit about Gable Tostee. As I said, he was Gold Coast born and bred, and according to him was named after the infamous Hollywood actor Clark Gable. His father was named Gray Tostee, and he was a carpet sales consultant who worked alongside his son. His mother, Helene Tostee, was a replacement or a relief teacher, and he also had a brother named Tennyson. Tostee graduated high school in 2003 from a local private school, and after graduating he decided to start his own business, being quite the entrepreneur. Unfortunately, the business was also highly illegal. Tostee and two of his mates started making fake ID cards for underage kids to get into clubs and whatnot, particularly for schoolies. And so I think schoolies is Australian based, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically schoolies is like spring break, I think. So it's all the fresh new high school graduates going out, partying, having fun, and a lot of them, or most of them, all of them, I don't know, I think they're all still underage. And a lot of them go to the Gold Coast for schoolies, and this is where Tostee and his mates lived, in the Gold Coast. Therefore, this was their business plan, to sell fake IDs to schoolies and make some money. And they did make money. They made $30,000 between the three of them, that is. And it was going all fine and dandy until the police caught up with them. And Gable Tostee ended up in front of Judge John Newton. And as part of going to court, Tostee had a psychological assessment, and the results of which the judge found quite concerning, to say the least. Psychiatrist Ian Curtis diagnosed Tostee as ill-equipped to deal with people socially with an autistic spectrum best described as Asperger's. And Asperger's can result in a lack of empathy and OCD. I don't know much about it myself. If you're interested, please do your own research on the condition. Curtis also stated that Tostee was disadvantaged in the normal social world and, quote, socially distant, emotionally estranged, with whom it was impossible to establish a clear-cut rapport. In 2009, Gable Tostee actually started seeing a psychiatrist regularly for depression, OCD, and social anxiety. And ultimately, no conviction was actually ever recorded over the fake ID incident. So after this brush with the law, Tostee actually became somewhat of a social recluse. He cut off most of his friends, and he started talking on an online forum very frequently called bodybuilding.com under the name GT Gable Tostee. And he didn't post anonymously per se, he actually posted photos of himself on the forum, so people would have been able to figure out who he was. Initially, he chatted on the forum with other members about fat-burning supplements, a non-dairy diet, and the existence of God and faith. He eventually starts asking his fellow forum members advice on women and how to make friends, because he described himself as socially awkward. At 23 years old, Gable Tostee hadn't actually slept with anyone since his own schoolies week at the age of 17, and of course there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but maybe he thought there was. And actually asking advice on this online forum was quite a turnaround in Tostee's confidence. Getting all this advice from fellow members really gave him the push to get out there. So as his confidence grew, so did the number of women he slept with. He would often boast, discuss, or ask advice on various women and his escapades on bodybuilding.com. And he actually stated on the forum, one of the main reasons I try to sleep with different girls as often as possible is to improve my own self-confidence. That's a bit of a look into, I guess, the psyche of Tostee at the time. In 2012, he boasts on the forum about sleeping with his 100th woman, titling the post, "Ask a guy who reached 100 girls slept with and is kinda depressed anything." In 2013, Gable Tostee discovered the dating app Tinder, which was perfect timing because he'd actually been banned from a lot of the local Gold Coast nightclubs for being, quote, creepy. And many of Tostee's Tinder escapades were actually also documented on the bodybuilding.com forum. Tostee also admitted on the forum that he had a problem with binge drinking, and he actually used drinking to curb his social anxiety. He did admit that his drinking had gotten out of control and he'd woken up several times not having any recollection of the night before, which is of course such a dangerous situation. And luckily Tostee had a solution, and it wasn't to bite the, I don't know what the saying is, bite it in the ass, is that it? He didn't quit drinking, basically. He had another solution to his binge drinking. He stated on the forum, "I'm somewhat obsessed with recording everything. I have motion detection cameras in my house, call recording on my phone, and sometimes I even leave my phone on record in my pocket for nights out in case I forget what happens." Tostee's drinking eventually led him back to being in trouble with the law, getting into a fight with a police officer, and he also got done for drink driving. During one incident on July the 27th, 2014, Tostee was driving mates back from a music festival at 4 times the legal drinking limit. When police tried to pull him over, he sped away and actually clocked almost 200 kilometers an hour, which I think is around 120 odd miles, 122, 24 miles an hour, which of course is bad, especially when you're drunk, but he was eventually stopped by road spikes police had put in place. Months later, he was actually jailed over the incident, which I will get back into later, and he wrote a letter to police at the time stating, "It was the wake-up call I needed. I am thankful that it happened before something potentially much worse happened." However, by the time he was actually jailed for this incident in November 2014, something much worse had happened. 11 days after this drink driving incident, Gable Tostee met up with his Tinder match, Warriena Wright. And I just wanted to give this general overview of Gable Tostee as a person. I'm not saying he's a good guy, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. You can draw your own conclusions and do further research. Make your own decision how you feel about Tostee. So Tostee and Warriena decided to meet up on Thursday, which was August the 7th. And this was actually just days before Warriena was due to fly back to her home in New Zealand. They met at 8:45 p.m. in Surfers Paradise and headed to the bottle shop to get a 6-pack of Tui's Extra Dry, which Tostee paid for, and then they headed back to Tostee's apartment, which was very conveniently located in Surfers Paradise, just like a short walk from the bottle shop. And by 8:58 p.m, the pair had already entered Tostee's apartment. And he lived in apartments called the Avalon Apartments. So if I refer to Avalon, that is what I'm referring to, his apartment block or building. So the whole process of Tostee and Warriena meeting for the first time was caught on CCTV footage. Warriena was posting selfies with Tostee on her Facebook page. She seemed to be having a really good time and was messaging her sister and telling her sister she had met the Aussie Sam Winchester, stating, "Drinking with him, woot." At 12:58 a.m, Tostee hits record on his mobile phone, which, as I stated before, was something common for him that he often did to remember drunken nights out in case anything happened. The recording, titled Session 24, was 3 hours and 19 minutes long. So the pair are drinking Tostee's homemade vodka, which he made from a still in his kitchen, and 5 minutes into drinking, Tostee refers to Warriena as a psycho drunk, yet continues to offer her at least 3 more drinks. At some point in the night, the pair have sex, and then as they get drunker and drunker, they just go into drunk ramblings, discussing things such as religion and disagreeing on the subject. In response to these disagreements during their drunk ramblings, Warriena play fights with Tostee with, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Muay Thai. It's a martial arts basically that she had once learnt, and Tostee said Her play fighting of this martial arts was actually quite violent. And as the night progressed, Warriena became quite unpredictable and aggressive. At 1:29 AM, Tostee can be heard saying on his recording, "I don't like getting beaten up." Then 9 minutes later, Tostee also says, "I should never have given you so much to drink. I thought we were going to have fun." At 1:35 AM, Warriena states that she wants to leave Tostee's apartment, but claims that he has her mobile phone and can't leave without it. She says, "Are you going to Muay Thai me? Because I will fucking destroy your jaw." And after this outburst, it appears things temporarily settle down. That is until 2:10 AM, another struggle is heard and Warriena can be heard saying, "You hurt my vagina," to which Tostee just laughs. Then Warriena starts playing with ornamental stones in Tostee's apartment, actually throwing them at him, in which he can be heard saying, "Ow." Another struggle is heard before Tostee says, "Alright, that's enough." And whimpering protests can be heard from Warriena. Tostee then states, "You have worn out your welcome, you are not my kind of girl," followed by a more threatening statement of, "You have to leave." Warriena says okay, but it sounds like she is struggling to get air at this point. Warriena says, "It's all good, hey, it's all good," but her voice sounds obstructed, so it is presumed that possibly Tostee was holding her down with her face towards the ground. He calls her fucking insane before the ominous line, "You're lucky I haven't chucked you off my balcony, you goddamn little psycho bitch."
You're lucky I haven't chucked you off my balcony, you goddamn psycho little Who the do you think I am?
At this point you can hear Warriena drawing quick short breaths as Tostee taunts her saying, what, got something to say. Warriena finally speaks, telling Tostee that he is sexist, and Tostee replies telling her, "I am the one who is injured, you don't have a goddamn scratch on you."
Yeah, do your Muay Thai now. What? What? Got something to say? Say it. Say it. What? I'm the one who's injured. You don't have a goddamn scratch on you. Seriously, what?
Then in a more controlling tone, Tostee says,
"I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna walk you out of this apartment. Just the way you are. You're not gonna collect any belongings or anything, you're just gonna walk out. And I'm going to slam the door on you. You understand? If you try to pull anything, I'll knock you out. I'll knock you the out. Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand? Come on, get up. Get up! Get up! Okay, get up.
and it's believed at some point Warriena strikes Tostee with part of his telescope. At this point on the audio we can hear what sounds like another struggle followed by Warriena apologising and then what sounds like Warriena being strangled. At 2:19 AM you can hear the balcony door being unlocked and hear Warriena screaming "No" 31 times in 46 seconds.
Who the f*** do you think you are?
No!
Hmm?
No! No! No!
You're trying to kill me, huh?
No!
Why'd you try to hit me with that?
No!
Huh?
No! 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 No!
Yeah.
No!
It's all on recording, you know?
She can be heard saying, "Just let me go home," to which Tostee says, I would, but you've been a bad girl. Tostee eventually walks back into his apartment and closes and locks the apartment door, and you can hear Warriena's muffled sounds on the recording. So 2 stories below Tostee's apartment, a man named Nick Casey, a hairdresser, is visiting another hairdresser friend named Emily Ellis. And then right below Tostee's apartment level is a woman named Gabrielle Collier Widener. Nick Casey and Emily Ellis can hear a struggle going on 2 stories above them, so they walk out onto their own balcony to see what all the ruckus is about. They look up and see Warriena, and she's standing on the balcony's edge, but she's on the wrong side of the balcony's glass. Casey can hear Warriena saying that she just wants to go home, and Tostee can be heard saying, "You can't get down that way, go back in." Casey watches as Warriena tries to twist and contort her body on the concrete ledge before returning to a standing position. Then, in absolute horror, he watches Warriena's body stiffen and she loses her footing and falling 14 stories off the ledge of the balcony. And Nick Casey actually saw her face as she fell, describing her as wide-eyed with pure fear. And he says that is something he will never forget. In fact, she fell so close right past their balcony, he says that they could have reached out and touched her. He also says that Warriena seemed like she was trying to say something as she fell, but no words were coming out. Nick Casey, Emily Ellis, and her boyfriend Ryan Martin all witnessed Warriena Wright fall 14 stories to her death off Gable Tostee's balcony at 2:21 a.m. So 25 seconds before Warriena actually falls off her balcony, you can hear the balcony door being closed and locked shut, followed by a faint scream. Tostee can be heard taking deep breaths on the recording, but he does not call emergency services and he does not check on Warriena. But he does make a phone call at that time. In fact, 38 seconds after Warriena falls to her death, he makes a phone call to his lawyer. And the woman I mentioned before who lives below Tostee, Gabrielle, is the one who phoned emergency services.